sweaty. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We're at Sandakan Memorial Prisoner of War Death March Memorial. I believe this is the original site of the prisoner of war camp at Sandakan. So this park is maintained in part by the Australian government as a memorial park, same as where we're going to in Labuan Island, where the cemetery is. That is also maintained by the Veterans Affairs. So we're at Kundasang War Memorial. This is a local Malaysian, and it's a beautiful garden. It's been well maintained. There's a lot of references to the Australians who did fight in the war here, and there's a lot of local people here already. And it's only just opened 10 minutes ago, and there's a lot of local people here coming wandering through these gardens. So congratulations to Malaysia for maintaining places like this as a remembrance. Australia has a long military history in Borneo, from the Sandakan Death March, where we went at the Sandakan Memorial the other day, to Australian operation to free Borneo at the end of the war, to the birthplace of the Australian Special Forces with the MV Crate, the ship that's sunk a lot of ships in Singapore Harbour. But what we've been doing is following the trail of the Sandakan Death March, where over 1,000 prisoners of war were marched over 200 kilometres, and only 6 survived. And that equates down to one person dying every 200 metres. And we've walked through this jungle, we've seen the jungle, and it's so difficult to imagine the suffering that they went through. This come about through my sister-in-law, our sister-in-law, Beck Hanson Parnell, who lost her grand uncle in the operation to free Borneo. Thankfully not for the suffering of the Sandakan Death March, but it's been that this experience that we're on this trail of remembrance. So we're going to stop and have a few more, show a few more camps. Tragic ironies of this death march is that the Japanese forced local Malay people to work for them, and then they got locals to hack out a path from Sandakan to Ranau, and the locals didn't know why, so they done everything they possibly could to sabotage to make it difficult for the Japanese. So they went the most difficult route. They went the longest way possible. Little did they know that the tragedy that was going to unfold, that they unwittingly helped with the death of 2,500 soldiers. That's just what happens when circumstances get in the way of things. Any way you slice it, the death march was a death march whether they made it here or not, because when they were sent here, this was just pure jungle. There was no provision for food once they got here. Jungle can't support weak and sick men like that. So it was to die on the track or die here. And before we all get carried away, the cruelty of the Japanese soldier, this would have been as much a death sentence for the guards who were marching with them, forcing them to march. It's just that they had the guns, and with the gun comes the power. And we're learning that in Australia at the moment with the court cases of the war in Afghanistan. That give a person a gun, you give them a lot of power. So it would have been survival of the fittest for everyone. And it's just that some had the guns, some didn't. So, and this is the last camp, and this is like the end of the death march. And the next thing we're going to be doing is going over to the eastern side and looking at Labuan and the operation to free Borneo. On the 10th of June in 1945, which was about 5 weeks after the end of the European War, and there was still another 5 weeks to go till the end of the Japanese War. And it was in the final days, after 6 years of fighting, we were in the final weeks. On the 10th of June, Australia sent some forces to liberate the island of Borneo, and part of that force was a private called Eric Russell, who was he landed on the 10th of June, and 2 days later he was sent out with another soldier from central Queensland and they were both shot, and the other soldier died immediately, and Private Russell, he survived another 3 days before he passed, and he left behind a family in Ipswich who's indirectly related to us, from our sister-in-law Rebecca. But we've come to the grave here, and it's just up here, and it's 13, it's the fourth one from the end right here. He left behind a family, and part of that family was an 18-year-old sister called Dorothy, now known as Auntie Dot to all her family. And we're going to leave a flower here at the gravesite for her, and we're just going to send a little message to her. So, Auntie Dot, this is your brother's grave, and it's a beautiful spot here. It's well cared for, and we just hope that it can give you a little bit more closure from your family to your family from our family. Well, this is the last part of our journey from Sandakan all the way over the island, seeing the suffering and the misery of what the war brought to this island. This is the last part. We're at the place known as Surrender Point. This is where Japanese forces officially surrendered at the end of the war, and we thought it would just be a fitting end to sit here over on the beach and take some time to contemplate all that we've seen and think about all those who have served and